Hello, everyone, and welcome to another insightful episode on JioEvents Studio. I'm your host, Anukth, and today we are privileged to have a distinguished guest with us, Mahalakshmi. She's a seasoned finance content creator and a notable figure in the world of finance content creation on Instagram, especially known for her expertise in venture capitals, startups, and fundraising, and of course, personal finance. Welcoming Mahalakshmi to JioEvents Studio.
Thanks, Anand. Thanks a lot for that really fancy sounding intro. Uh, I'm so happy to be here today.
Amazing, amazing. So, in today's episode, guys, we are going to dwell into Mahalakshmi's journey into finance and her content creation side, her CA journey, and uncover common misconceptions about financial literacy that a lot of us face right now. And we are going to gain valuable insights from her career, from her about finance. Let's, I will just start the show. Cool.
Awesome.
So, welcome to the show, Mahalakshmi, once again. And to start with, could you share something to the audience, a bit of your journey into this side of content creation that you have selected, and what inspired you to start this entire journey and experience, and how has your experience been so far?
Sure. So I had actually, as soon as I finished my CA, I had tried to build my own startup. It
Okay.
was a app. So
Okay.
the goal was to build something where you open your camera and you work out in front of it, and it'll give you real-time feedback. We
Mm-hmm.
tried to for around a year and a half, but unfortunately, we couldn't raise funding.
Oh.
Um, Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I realized how difficult it is for people who are not very into the startup ecosystem, who are kind of outsiders, right? I was a CA, I was not really an IIT or BITS or an IIM guy who have a lot more insights into what happens in the venture capital world. It's very difficult for people like that to understand how venture capital works and what happens on the inside. Um, Thankfully, I had my CA degree, so I was able to get a job in venture capital.
Okay.
um, uh, then after I started working in venture capital, I understood the amount of knowledge that is in that very tiny ecosystem that is not reaching outside. It's not necessary for every founder to raise funding, right? But all of these founders that don't raise funding from VCs do not have easy access to all of this knowledge. Like, if I ask a founder what is a gross margin of a beauty company supposed to be, a
Mm-hmm.
VC funded will easily have this range in his head. But a founder that is not VC funded might not know this number because a VC is sitting on 10 different cap tables. They know the gross margins of 10 different companies, so they will be able to give this 11th company this insight,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's not fair that only VC funded founders have this kind of information. And so that is when I always had a knack for content creation. I actually started a fashion blog back when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that was something I just did as a hobby, and I never really thought of growing it. But I think when I came across this unique problem, I was getting all of this knowledge, and I had this skill where I could create fun videos. I thought, why not? And I jumped into it. So yeah, that's how it came.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Actually, from like fashion blogging to finance blogging, it's a quite of a journey, and it's a very different side actually. Because
Mhm.
fashion blogging, you're free to do certain set of things.
Yeah.
Like you're open to do a lot of things under fashion blogging. You can go on from one to the other, but finance blogging and that too into venture capitals and startups, that's like a niche of a niche.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
That's amazing. But I just had a question. So this venture capitals that you mentioned had a certain set of knowledge. Was it like
Mhm.
for the domains that they are in or they know, or is the set of rules and that information same across all the domains of industries probably?
No, it is definitely domain specific, and there are domain specific VCs. There are some VCs, for example, that only do FMCG products, so they only invest in apparel, fashion, beauty. There are some that just do software. There are some that just do deep tech. There are
Mhm.
also some that are sector agnostic. So,
Got
but even in this sector agnostic VCs, there are specific teams for specific sectors. So it's always specific sector.
Okay, got it, got it, got it, got it. So, I would like to ask you about this part of the Gen Z that we are in right now, and
Mhm.
there is a different exposure to finance, to stock markets, and everything specifically for our generation. So I'm
Mhm.
taking like about post 1990 bonds till the 2000 2005 people who are right now adults, and they are into some or the other career, and they're looking at investments options.
Mhm.
So they all of them have because of this COVID phase, a lot of them I've seen my friends and all also invest into stock markets, mutual funds, etc., etc., and they're planning their finances properly.
Mhm.
So this whole term, I, at least for me, I didn't know this entire thing before I started my job, but post starting my job, managing finances and everything, then this new term that thing came up was financial literacy.
Mhm. Yeah.
And there are a lot of common misconceptions that people think, and the mistakes that they do while
Mhm.
managing their finances. Probably
Mhm.
कैसा होता है कि somebody कि ये दोस्त जाके stocks में invest कर रहा है, तो मैं भी ये stocks में invest कर लूंगा, ये इधर invest कर रहा है, तो I'll just go and invest in this startup or something like that. But there's no calculations to what they're doing, because probably the other person has the math, has the calculations of investing into what stock. So,
Mhm.
what have you come up across people like doing these things? What have you observed as the mistakes that people have done? And probably, I don't want like many, because there are a lot of things as per certain set of things, but the common ones, at least if you could point it out, that could help the audience who are at this generation who are doing their financial planning.
Got it. Sure. So I think on two different extremes, I think there are two different mistakes that I see most common, right? The first one is not taking control of your finances. So you're right. Like I think our generation is waking up and they're understanding that fixed deposit is not an investment. But there are still a lot of people, and I see this unfortunately more among women, that just don't have control over their finances. They make their money, they keep with themselves whatever they need to spend, and the rest is handled by their father. And really well qualified, educated people, right?
Okay.
And I think the problem with this is that, firstly, our generation has way more access to this information than I think the previous generation does. And secondly, it's just not sustainable in the long term. Your dad cannot handle your finances forever. You'll have to take control at some point. And the best time to take control is yesterday. As soon as you started making your own money, or even before that, when you were making some pocket money, you should
Yeah.
have started taking control. Because this is also a time when it's the most risk free to make some mistakes, right? It's if you just started your career, that means you have some fallback options. You like if you lose a little money, it's probably okay. So uh, I think learn as soon as you can and take control of your finances. Don't give up control. I think that's one mistake that people make. And the second mistake, like you said, is jumping onto these hype trains. And
Hmm.
it happens with the most experienced people. VCs are actually known to be the worst in this, right? Whatever is the most hyped up thing, they invest in that and the valuations come down. And even though this is their career, VCs keep making the same mistakes. And I think retail investors also do a lot of that. I myself lost a considerable amount of money in crypto because I jumped onto the hype train. So
I'll get
I
back to you
think
on crypto. I'm going to talk to you about crypto.
sure, sure. But don't invest in things that you don't understand.
Hmm.
You don't have to invest in everything just because it's trending. You don't have to invest in everything just because somebody said that they made like an insane return. Pick two, three things that you really understand.
Hmm.
If you are a software person, you probably really understand how software companies do.
Hmm.
And if consumer goods is something that everybody always understands. And
Hmm.
since we're talking about long-term investing, we're not talking about trading. Build conviction, okay? Like on the concept. Like you might think, for example, that electric vehicles are really the future. And
Yeah.
how do you know this? You've read up a lot, you've seen some companies and you've tracked them for a while, and you know that you know about climate change, so you know this is the future, so you pick that sector and invest in it. So
Hmm. Got it. True.
I'd say don't get on the hype trains and don't over diversify. It's not complicated. Pick things that you believe in and invest. So yeah, these I think are the
Fair,
yeah.
fair, very fair. So, just the point there, like, a lot of them actually want fast returns.
Yeah.
That is another thing that where people get wrong. कि
Hmm.
आज अगर 100 रुपए डाल दिया तो कल वो कितना होने वाला है, 100 का 150 200 हो रहा है कि 300 हो रहा है कि वो 50 में गिर रहा है. सो दैट इज द आई वुड से impatient behavior that we have.
Yeah.
uh, we as in this generation who are investing, they are very impatient, they want fast returns, and they
Mm.
miss the long term investment plans or long term investments that they could have done.
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
your take about it, on long term, short term, how to do it, whether it's good to do it right now or to place some amount of money, or how I leave up to you. You can just tell me how do you plan to do that.
See, short term, long term is different, and trading is different. Even in investments, there are short term investments, which, things like mutual funds that are very liquid. There's no charge to sell your mutual funds today and get a return. And there's long term where you invest more money. Real estate is a long term investment. It's not liquid. You can't just get your money back. But trading is different. If you're asked if you want to do things where you're investing today and tomorrow you're getting 10%, 20%, that is trading. And that is an entire profession in itself.
Itself.
So yeah, so people that do this, they have to, like, it's crazy, right? The amount of information you need to have about the company, the amount of analysis you need to do. Like, I'm honestly not familiar with trading myself, but I know friends that have like three different screens and there's 30 different charts and they go through all of this before making one investment, right? I don't know if you watch the show Billions. I think that
Yeah, I've seen it
yeah,
there.
yeah. So it is definitely not for everybody. You need to have a lot of time on your hands, and you need to really know the market and the analysis. So don't expect to get 10%, 20% tomorrow if you're planning on investing.
Investing.
If you're planning on trading, then that's completely
Got it. Got it. Perfect. Super. So now coming back to VCs and startups.
different.
So your career spans various aspects of finance, but it includes. I have seen it on your content. It includes a lot into VCs, as you have mentioned, how you've gotten into this side, and startups and fundraisings and all sorts of that side of finance. So, could you
Mhm.
tell us more about your accomplishments that you have done in these areas, and your experiences in these areas?
Sure. Um, Accomplishments, while I think it's a very standard VC accomplishment, and I've found some startups that were really interesting and we've invested in them.
Hmm.
Now the thing with VC is the feedback loop is very long. So I will have to wait 7 to 8 years to know if my investment decisions were right, because that startup has to grow and I have to get an exit. Only then will I know if I made the right decisions. But all you can tell so far is how if the companies are growing really well, and I think that's one accomplishment. And secondly, I think one of my the accomplishment that is most close to my heart is actually my Instagram channel, for multiple reasons, right? It's not it took off way more than I expected it to. When I started it, I thought it would be like a niche community. I thought, okay, how many people want to build their own startup? Really, it can't be that many. And like you said, it's a niche within a niche within a niche. So I really didn't expect, but um, I think it's India's age of entrepreneurship. Like I like to call it, a Shark Tank lit a match, and I think it's taken off now.
Yes.
And the most interesting part for me, and why I call it an accomplishment that's close to my heart, is because I love it when people reach out and they ask me questions, and they come back to me and they tell me, listen, I follow what you said, and so this happened, right? So I have founders reaching out to me asking me, these three people are interested in investing. Which one should I pick? I have, local celebrity, a Kannada celebrity, reached out to me and said, I have the money, but I don't know how to pick startups and how to invest in startups. So can you help me with that? So there's these two movements happening on both sides. The middle class is rising. We have the money, but we don't know how to invest in startups. And also this entrepreneurship wave. So the fact that I'm being able to help both these sides, as I think one accomplishment I can talk about publicly, and I'm very proud of.
Yeah, this the Instagram handle that she's mentioning, the link is in the ticker text. You can follow her. It's ca_Mahalakshmi. But yeah, content creation. That is a big market in India right now. It's
Mhm.
growing like no other place. Actually,
Mhm.
content creation in the world only it's growing, but Indians are taking. There are like there is Think School by Ganesh Prasad. There are a lot of insightful pages actually who are creating content for the country, for educating people rather than the fashion blogging and all is great, but having insightful content creation is on a next level because um, I'll tell you why I'm saying this thing is it's easy to get fashion followers. If you are a fashion blogger, you are easy. It's easy to get followers and the engagement rates. But for a niche topic, to create content on that, to educate people on that, to have a community that actually follows you, like how Finance with Sharon is doing, or how Abhi and you are probably doing their content creation side. So it's a very niche thing that is happening for educating people. And actually, Ashneer Grover once said in an interview that you can stop everything and you can start creating content, you'll earn more money.
Mm. Mhm.
He
Yeah.
said in one of his interviews like that. So yeah, this content creating is a big game. It's an amazing art, actually, I would call it, because
Mhm.
to have people see your content every time now and then is a big art to have them engaged. So
Yeah.
kudos on that, actually.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So I have a question for all the aspiring entrepreneurs who are watching this show today,
Mhm.
uh, or who are going to watch it in the future as well. What is your advice that you would want to give to them if they are finding ways to secure a funding for their startups, or especially from venture capital firms?
Mhm. I think my first piece of advice would be don't do it just because you think you're supposed to. There are very specific startup models that work for VC funding. So they usually look for really scalable business models. So most businesses that we see today are not VC fundable. And that is not a bad thing. You can build very successful businesses with zero external capital. People have done it before, people are continuously going to do it. So ask yourself if you really need it and if you're the kind of business that VCs usually fund. That would be step one. And step two would be don't always reach out through connects. That is the easiest way. Because VCs get so many cold messages, so many cold emails, it's very easy to miss out on one great startup, and uh, there's really no way around it. So build networks, connect with other founders, and get an introduction to a VC. And I think building a startup network, especially if you're in Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, even Hyderabad and Pune now, it's very easy. Every week there's 2, 3 startup events. Attend these events, build networks with other founders, and then once you build your relationship, ask for an intro to a VC. That would be the second one. And thirdly, remember that it's a two-sided game. Just as the VC is trying to evaluate you, you should also evaluate the VC, because not all investors are perfect for all companies. It's a two-sided thing. I actually have a very interesting reel on how to pick a right VC. That'll be a longer conversation, but maybe interested people can watch that. But yeah, these would be my three tips. I know I can give you tips about how to raise funding, but step one is getting the connect, and there's honestly not much you can do once you've pitched to the VC. That's it. That is out of your hands. If the business model makes sense to them, they will chase it. So yeah.
Got it. Perfect. So in this, right, I have read often that startups overvalue them. Like
Mhm.
over their valuation is much above what the market would be. Is
Yeah.
that true? And are startup founders getting that thing wrong? How to value their company?
Um, it's not the founders that get it wrong, but it's usually the VCs that get it wrong. because the founder can't dictate the value of the company. They can ask for a valuation, but in the end, the VC has to decide if that is a good valuation and give it to them. So yes, startups. A lot of startups are overvalued, but it happens in bubbles, right? I think now all the valuations have gone down. The last, I think maybe a year ago, everything was overvalued, and they have a way of correcting themselves. I think we're all seeing very recently the cases of things going to IPO and valuation dropping. So there's a lot of not negativity, but I don't know. This whole talk of overvalued startup has
Yes.
caught on.
Yes.
But I think this year things have started to correct themselves, and you still need to be. Um, if you're a retail investor, I don't think you should worry much. Just the market will correct itself once the company goes to an IPO. But if you are a founder, then if your company is overvalued, it's in a way good for you. So I uh, at least until the correction happens.
Yeah,
So yeah.
that's nice. But aren't startups very challenging to navigate? And
Yeah.
what are like strategies or considerations that people should take while they're doing all these work with startups?
Hmm. Startups are hands down very challenging. There is really no manual, there is no rule book, there is no one size fits all. People have found success in the craziest ways, and people have done super crazy things but still have not found success. Um, some things that you need to keep in mind is that before jumping into it, make sure you're ready to fail. 90% of startups fail. And if you're someone that can't take failure emotionally, financially, in any way, it's probably not the right time for you. And I think one thing that people really ignore is surrounding yourself with supportive people. I know most middle class Indian families might not be supportive of a startup dream, right? But that that doesn't like you can still surround yourself with people that have dreams like yours. Like I said, there's lots of communities. Be part of those communities and try to keep the negativity away because that can really affect you. Um, and thirdly, find a balance. It's very easy for people on reels to say, oh, if you want to build a business, quit today and start it. That's not the way it works. It's not the same for everybody. A lot of us have responsibilities, and
So
it's honestly it's just way too glamorized in the media. A founder's life, people say, oh, I want to work a 9 to 5. If you start to build a startup, you don't get a break. There's no weekends off. You probably sleep for 6 hours a day, and you're constantly going to be stressed. So make sure you're ready for all of this before you decide to take a plunge.
I know I had a small personal journey in this, and I could say like what we see portrayed on social media is not something which is true. Leaving jobs and doing startups, it's a lot of courageous steps to be taken to do that, and a lot of people do take that thing, and they are even successful at what they're doing. But there are a bunch of people who believe that if they do that thing right, then only it is right, or else
Hmm.
they are not at the right track. Like मतलब
Hmm.
स्टार्टअप ले लिया तो जॉब छोड़ना ही है, और अगर जॉब में नहीं जाना है तो स्टार्टअप बनाना है, कुछ भी हम लोग को 9 to 5 नहीं पसंद है तो जॉब का स्टार्टअप करना है. But
Yeah.
the it doesn't click. All the startups don't click, as you said. 90% of it fails. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually true.
Like you mentioned, right? You brought up a very interesting point. A lot of people think ki, I don't like my job, so I want to do something in the startup world.
Hmm.
That is the absolute worst. Okay. Uh, I- if you don't like your job, figure out why. Like,
Hmm.
let's say I'm an accountant, right? I was auditing before, and
Hmm.
I hated. Let's say I hated my job. If I'm going to try to start my own audit company, I'll probably still hate it. That's maybe because I hate auditing, not working for someone else. So
Got
if you hate your job, it's probably because you hate your job, not because you hate working for someone, right?
it.
So I think the worst ones are ones that like I don't want to work a job, so I wanted to work for myself, so I'm building a
Yeah,
startup. So I think
I've heard a lot of them. I've heard. I'm like, okay, fine, y'all keep
yeah.
this to yourselves now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so I have something out of the blue here. I want to know your take on stock market.
What do you mean my take on stock market?
Like current situation of the stock market.
Okay, I'm probably the wrong person to ask this. I
Acha,
don't
you're
think.
not into stock market then?
I only invest for the long term. So, like I told you in the beginning, I have two, three concepts that I believe in. Like,
Hmm,
Indian IT, I believe is constantly going to grow.
got it.
Electric vehicles is something that's constantly. And I know US companies made the top FANG companies when they were not overvalued. But so I believe in concepts. So I do my research in the beginning. Once, let's say, there's a pay bump and I have some extra money. Once I start a new job, and every month I put in the same the same amount of money in the same stocks. So I, unless something crazy happens, like the ARM IPO happened, Nvidia's valuation went crazy.
Hmm,
These newsworthy events, while I keep track of, I don't really I'm not like an active stock market investor.
interesting, interesting. Because for a finance person to have this thing on not being so much into stock market is actually a very rare thing that I have come across. That's why I asked you this question. But yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I don't think it's my thing, and I don't think I have the time to do it correctly yet. Maybe someday.
got it. Superb. So, a part, if I'm not wrong, then I could call some of your part of content creation that you're doing as you're on a mission to promote financial literacy on a broader scale, I would say. uh,
Mhm.
Relating to the topics that you're doing, I'm just keeping it under financial, but you're on that side of a mission. So how do you believe to improve? I think we have spoken about why we are talking about this thing, but how do you believe that somebody can improve their financial literacy on a broader scale for especially the young adults?
Um, I think in today's day and age, if you want to do it, you can do it. So all you need is this need to be financially independent or literate, right? Um, if you want to do it, there are just so many avenues to learn about every single thing. There's courses to learn about trading, to learn about long-term investing, to learn about taxation. Like if you want to find it, you will find it, and you will find it in your very specific niche. There's things for people that just started working. There's things for young adults. There's apps that teach you with your mock stock market, and there's fake money that you invest and you learn. So that's literally it. I'm like, even like my 13-year-old cousin has a smartphone today. So if you want to do it, there are hundreds of ways, hundreds of cost-effective ways to do it.
True, 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 true. Interesting, actually. So it's actually the human, like the person who wants to be financially literate, he needs to take the first step of finding how the way is to do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Okay. So in this world full of investments,
Mhm.
uh, striking a right balance between risk and reward is the most crucial part. What are
Yeah.
your principles that you follow? Like, this is something that I will not do, it's out of my books. This is something that I can go and risk my bet upon. And also when you're advising, as you mentioned, that there are a lot of founders who come to you saying this is the case that people are asking me funding for, which one would you suggest? So when you're giving an advice on of an investment decision,
Mhm.
particularly to startups and venture capitals, what is something as a rule book, if you have, or some of the principles that you follow?
Hmm. Um, I think it's just understand firstly that it's very subjective and very specific to your life circumstances, right? Not
Okay.
just your economic background, but your current situation in life. Do you see any big spends coming up? Do you plan on studying further, so you might need more money, so you have to be way more conservative today? Or do you have a fallback option? Do you have an emergency fund? Can you depend on your parents if you lose a lot of money? Those are the things that take like a 360-degree view of your life and where you are and where you want to be in the next 5, 10 years, and then make these investment decisions. balancing between risk and reward is, um, honestly, I this is something that I also struggle with. I'd like to take way more risk than I take right now, but it it's really so different for different people. I know people from the past generation. I know cousins who are slightly older than me that are so risk averse. They invest in one plan that the bank guy has told them, and that's all they do. They don't do stock market. They don't know anything, right? And I'm in the venture capital world, so people make dumb investments into dumb companies that shut down. So I've seen both sides of it, and yeah, the only thing I'd say is uh, it honestly depends on your 360 degrees of your life. And if you are a little bit older, then I feel like you're probably more risk averse than you need to be. If you're a little bit younger, then I think you are you're taking more risk, which is the way it should be.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that it's just it's very subjective.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, uh, till now, in your career, like you might have seen some incredible success stories.
Hmm.
And, I just want to know if you have any favorite story that illustrates the power of the financial world and investment, and did it inspire you in a way? If it did so.
Yeah, I think I can talk about this VC that I was working for. It was called RPSG. It is called RPSG Capital Ventures, and I spent a couple of years there almost. And we had invested in some incredible brands that you wouldn't know. Have you heard of the Soul Store, the T-shirt brand?
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, so we'd invested in that, and I think when you look at it, right, it's a T-shirt company. You wouldn't think that it's a VC fundable model or somebody can build such a great brand that no other T-shirt company can
Mhm.
compete. Like today, you have 100 videos on YouTube on how to start your own printed T-shirt company, but nobody's being able to beat the Soul Store. It is, if you think of I want to buy a good T-shirt, the Soul Store is what everybody thinks of.
Hmm.
And I think that is one of my favorite success stories, both in terms of what the founders did. There were these four college guys that wanted to do something that they really enjoyed, and they started, and they were like really like huge nerds, right? So they were into the whole superhero world, and they wanted to build something around that. And for the founders themselves, it's a huge success story what they've been able to build today. And even for us as a VC, I think it's one of the best stories out there. And that inspires me both as a founder and as a VC. What really worked, I think, as a founder was um, those founders are the best people I've ever interacted with as
Oh,
people.
wow.
Yeah, just the most friendliest, the most easy to talk to the most non-arrogant people, most down to earth. And that is something people just, I don't know, discount when you're talking about what do you need to be a good founder. Because if you're not a good person, you will not be able to retain talent in the beginning, especially when as a startup you can't pay too much salaries, right? So people will want to, if you're not a good person to work with, they will not want to work because you anyway can't pay them. So why else would they work with you, right? Um, and on the VC side, I think the people that I used to work with, they were really, really smart. One of them spent 20 years in consumer private equity, where he, acquired companies and ran them for a while and then sold them. So really strong fundamentals and sector-specific fundamentals. He knows consumer sector. He knows how a brand is supposed to scale. He knows what are good gross margins. He knows what is a good repeat rate. Every month, these many customers have to repeat again, so he just knew everything in the consumer sector like the back of his hand. And I think nobody thought that the Soul Store is going to be as big a hit for investors as it has become. So yeah, these two are
That's
successfully two sides. So yeah.
that's interesting. That's quite interesting to know something. I think I'll tell you. I saw soul stories on stores on Instagram ads.
Hmm.
They are really good on Instagram, so
Yeah,
that's where I saw them. But yeah, that's a very interesting story to know some brand has such great founders as well.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
nice. So I would want to ask you about this thing, this financial landscape. Uh,
Mhm.
if I take it as a whole financial landscape block, that is something that is evolving month and month, year on year, according to the economy, according to the growth of the country, according to the growth of the world powers as well. Uh,
Mm.
I know we have a lot of information. There is YouTube, there's Instagram, there is Google that you can search on. But uh, do you have any way that you can stay informed or up to date with the latest trends, the developments in the finance and the investment sector? More than finance, I would say if you could tell us about the investment sectors.
Hmm. Um, this might sound surprising, but it is by going outside. Just and this is something I've also learned recently, right? You will see trends when you step outside your home. Like I was really busy for 4 5 months and I didn't step out of my home. And then one day I went outside and I realized the way India is consuming is changing. Every mall is full, every restaurant is full. If I have to, I go to the gym every day and I have to wait in line to use a machine, right? Everybody has gotten conscious. There's so much disposable income available. And it just hit me. If I was sitting at my home and trying to build a thesis on how India is going to go, where it is going to go, it's all in my head. But you go outside and see what is happening in reality. I think that is one way to stay, kind of to keep your ear to the ground, right? See what is happening in the real world. And when I say go outside, it also means talking to people. And when we are investing in a startup, this is something that all VCs do. They talk to the customers of this startup that they're evaluating, right? How is that customer thinking? What have they used before? Why they want to use this product now? How much can they pay for a product like this? And that's as a VC. But I think just being curious and talking to anybody and everybody. Like I know people that are just that we are going together somewhere in the cab, and then they're talking to the cab driver about their problems. And tomorrow, if there's a startup that comes saying that, oh, we want to beat Uber and Ola, they know because they've spoken to cab drivers for time pass, so they know how the cab driver thinks, right? I know people that just they have their own cars, own fancy cars, but they take the public transport to see what is missing, what is the problem, what needs to be fixed over here. So I think being curious, talking to real people, and seeing real things in the world. One of my favorite ways to do this is actually, this is surprising, reading comments on YouTube videos and Instagram videos.
Okay,
So you,
that's something that nobody wants to do as a content creator, as such, I would say.
no, it doesn't have to be on your videos, right? But any video that does well, you will really get to know. Especially you read the comments from those Finsta accounts, those fake accounts that people make just to follow influencers and leave negative comments. Those are the best ones because they're the most honest, truthful comments. So once you read those comments, you'll know how people are thinking. And what they talk about, how they feel about things. So yeah, I think these are some things that I do to kind of keep my ear to the ground.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's actually a good way. Communication is the key. And
Yeah.
as a marketing guy, I stay away from comments. That's but now
Obviously.
I'm going to try it out on what
Yeah,
are the comments, if there are any negatives and all. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a nice fun way.
Mhm.
Super. Cool. So I this is my last bite. Okay, before we conclude, a
Mhm.
very typical question is coming your way.
Mhm.
Financial tips, practical financial tips for the
Um,
audience, for their well-being to implement in their lives. That probably they can do it as soon as they can. But practical financial tips.
it's never too early to start investing, even if you're getting some pocket money. If you can spend 500 per month, uh, and don't expect to make any return from it. Think of it as your learning cost every month. It's okay if I lose 500. If once I start making real money, I will know exactly what to do with it. So and you can do this as an adult. If you've lost the last 10 years because you've ignored it and now you want to start doing it, put some money aside as learning money and just invest and see how it goes. I think that would be tip number one. And I think tip number two is understand that you are unique. So don't don't listen to anyone too older than you. Don't listen to influencers. Don't listen to, uh, I guess, okay, consume all content, consume everybody's tips, but see how that applies to your life and then make these financial decisions. And third one is, the minute everybody is talking about something is not the time to invest in it, because that time it's overvalued. And this is one mistake I see everybody making, right? I'm trying to teach my sister. She's a doctor. She's just started making money. I'm trying to teach her to invest, and every day she comes to me with a screenshot of, oh, this company is doing so well. It's always green. I see it's so high. I'll invest in it. No, if it's high means why would you invest in it now? It'll probably come down. So if at any time anything is overvalued, for example, right now AI, it's all everybody is talking about. So now is not the time to invest in it. Last year was the time to invest in it. And okay, if you can't invest now, wait for the hype to die down, wait for the correction to happen,
Then you
and then
can
evaluate.
investing. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Super.
these were my.
Thank you so much, Mahalakshmi, for sharing such invaluable insights with us and expertise today. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show on JioEvents Studio. It's been a pleasure to have you and have this conversation of finance. I was badly waiting for a finance content creator to come and talk to me because I wanted to do this show because it's a trending thing that I am seeing every day on social media. And the as I mentioned, the terms financial literacy, everything people are talking about it, but are they actually financially literate? Was my question. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's where I reached out to all finance content creators. But yeah, it was great to have you. To our audience, remember to connect with Mahalakshmi on her Instagram. It's ca_Mahalakshmi, and she has an amazing page. She has an amazing page. You all should watch it out. So yeah,
That's
thank you so
true.
much, Mahalakshmi.
No, thanks a lot, Anuk. I had a lot of fun. This was a really cool conversation. Thanks for doing this.
Superb. To all our listeners, stay tuned for more such enriching content from JioEvents Studio. We are committed to bringing you more such content on variety of topics from tech to finance to cultural to n number of inspiring talks. To stay updated and never miss out on our content, please do hit the like button, follow, subscribe, share wherever you all can. Still, till then, we'll get you more content. Until next time, take care and make wise financial decisions.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Cool. Bye. Bye.